Howdy folks, it's Eric Zapp back here. Today we're going to be going over my 1-year ownership update on the 2024 Toyota Grand Highlander. What were the pros? What were the cons? Was this new engine Toyota released really as bad as they made it sound? And the recall that's been announced, is it getting better or is it getting worse? Is there a solution? And would I buy this thing a year ago from now if I know what I know now? So that said, let's hop right into it. So there's a lot of things that come out with a first generation car. You have recalls, you have different engine displacements, and you just have a different layout completely. And a lot of the times, these things can end up with a lot of benefits, but also a lot of downfalls. So first, let's just go over the things I don't like about this car, and then we'll hop into the stuff that I do really like. So the biggest thing that I don't like about this car at this point is honestly, there's a few things. Well, the first thing is obviously just the recall, the nature of the recall that is currently going on. And this wasn't released until I think mid-July, early August. That basically if this window is open and you get smashed in the front here, the airbag goes off. The airbag actually goes to the left, or actually the right of the driver. And then the driver's head goes forward and smashes off of this A-pillar here. But as we've found out in the last month, that now it's also the case for the passenger side. So it's not only the driver, it's also the passenger, which you kind of expect, but it wasn't released as that bit of information at first when it was released to the public. The other problem that I've found that happened more so within the first 6 months to 8 months that I've had this car is that the key fob can just go dead at random. I tried to put it into the key into the push to start button and it wouldn't actually work. Which was quite unfortunate, but I was across from a Shoppers Drug Mart. I could go out, grab a new battery, throw one in, and then wait 20 minutes for it to kind of tune in with the car, and then it actually started working. But since that happened, there was 3 more times after that where I would come in and then you would just go to push it and there was just powerless. But I was able to use actually the KISS method, push the key against the engine start stop button, and that would actually get it going, and it did. So I didn't actually have to swap the battery any more than that. And the next thing is fuel economy. So obviously this car is really big, it's huge, it's about 5,000 pounds in weight. It's quite a big car, even though the posted fuel economy numbers are about 22 to 26, I believe, miles to the gallon in the city versus the highway. What I'm getting on here is about 13.9 liters per 100 kilometers. We'll put the miles per gallon note right here in the screen so you can see, but long story short, this thing is really tragic on fuel. And which is crazy is that my 2023 F-150 XLT 302A with the 3.5 liter EcoBoost engine actually gets 15 liters per 100 kilometers, which is very, very minute in terms of improvement to this car. So this thing here has a really small engine powering this big vehicle versus a bigger engine with a little bit more power to power that bigger vehicle. So this thing, you can definitely tell the fuel economy isn't where it should be. And if you want the best fuel economy, you're going to have to go for the Grand Highlander Hybrid, not the Hybrid Max, because that'll get you your best fuel economy. And other than that, there's not really much else I don't like about this car, but I would say the biggest thing is just how thin the hood metal is. Like if you look here, you got your hood here, you can just kind of push on it, it's really thin. You'll just be sitting there in traffic and you'll just look at the hood here and it'll just start wobbling and shaking, and it's really, really kind of weird. But overall, it's really cheap feeling, you know, just even back here. It's just so thin, and it's kind of interesting because in Highlanders in the past, like sub 2019, they felt a lot better than this. So it's kind of tragic that this is the case, but that's just the way it is. They're trying to cut down on manufacturing costs, cut down on material costs, and this is what you got to deal with. That said, obviously you get a really nice big car, but you can tell very clearly that the build quality, at least the rigidity and the structural integrity of the metal here, isn't at its highest standard that it should be to become a safe vehicle like you would expect on a 7-seater family SUV that's going to be housing a lot of people. All right, now let's get into the stuff that I really, really enjoy about this car, because obviously having this for a year, you're going to learn a lot of different things about it, and I have figured out quite a bit of stuff. And one of the biggest things is definitely this engine right here. This is the 2.4 liter inline 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, 265 horsepower, 310 pound-foot of torque. Now, when I first got this car, I was really skeptical. It seemed underpowered, and it seemed like it was never going to be able to deliver enough power to get this big boat rolling. But the more I learned how to use the gearbox and just kind of work with the transmission and the different drive mode settings, the more I figured out that this really can be quite peppy. For example, if you're in eco mode, it's not going to be responsive, but if you throw this thing in sport mode, it will quite well rip. Or if you want to be a little bit crazy, throw it in manual mode, and obviously it's going to hold on to the gears a little bit longer here and there, but it's going to be very sporty, very responsive. And if you need to overtake someone on the highway, you need to have some instantaneous speed, that is going to do the trick despite this very different engine. And I know that's a big thing because most people are skeptical about this engine because it's a now turbocharged engine, but this is up in the Lexus TX, a bunch of different models. It's making its way in a different tuning spectrum into the Toyota Tacoma and all these different models, so it's going to get better. But it is definitely a new territory for Toyota, being turbocharged versus the natural aspiration previous style engine. Now when it comes to long-term reliability, I know none of us can really speak on that one yet, and it's going to be a while before we figure that one out. And the second thing I really like about this thing, which is the reason you buy a Grand Highlander in the whole purpose, is just the size. Like when you look at this thing, it's really flipping big. It's got a lot of space between the first, second, and third row seats. Space galore. And when you go inside here, you can just see even just the middle door here. It's a big middle door. It's very comfortable. So you open the driver's side door here and you have so much room. So when you're sitting inside here though, it's really comfortable, spacious, and it's a nice place to be. Steering wheel, very responsive. It's a comfortable space to be. I could say very certain I could drive this thing thousands of kilometers across multiple countries and it would be very comfortable the entire time, which is pretty sweet. Another thing is just simply how easy it is to connect to your Apple CarPlay. As soon as you get in here, basically, if it knows your phone and you're programmed on there as a frequent driver, it is going to notice you right away and get you hooked up right away. And if you aren't the person, let's say you want to connect your wife instead, you just go in there, click it up, it'll swap immediately. It's so fast and it's very efficient, honestly. Another thing that I found very helpful is just the amount of cup holders and USB-C ports that you have in here. You have 7 USB-C ports in here. You've got 2 in the middle console here. You've got 1 over here to the right, 1 on each side of your rear climate control. And when you've got your third row up, you have 1 on each side for your third row passengers. You also have 6 cup holders alone here in the third row, as well as an iPad slot. You got room for about 3 to 4 bottles of water in each door, in the front and rear, as well as you have your typical 2 cup holders here in the middle, and you could technically call it a third because this here is made to hold a much bigger piece. Next thing is just the amount of storage you have. So basically, obviously you have your door card, plenty of storage in your door cards, but over here in the middle here, you have plenty of storage down inside here. You got obviously all your cup holders. You have storage over here just in front of the passenger seat. You got plenty of space there in your middle console to fit all kinds of random stuff. And in the back seat here, you can see you have just plenty of leg room back here, just tons of leg room. And even with my child's seat over here, it's just very bulky. I can still fit in here pretty decently well. But the big thing here is you get so much added leg room here, because actually here you get a lot of leg room, but also in the third row you have an extra 30 inches of leg room, or you have 30 inches of leg room. So here I am in the back seat, and there's a lot of good creature comforts back here. You have 3 cup holders, a slot for an iPad, slot for a phone, a USB-C, and some third row climate control. And let's just note, you have a healthy amount of leg room here as well, so it's super good. Whereas the competition is more around 19 to 20, so it's much bigger in the back seat than the competition. Another really nifty thing is that the back window here, you actually have curtains. Now they're manual curtains, but they are really handy, and they cover a good chunk of the window. You obviously have a little area here where they can't get it, but it's really nice, and they have some really good coverage. That way when you're in the back, you got the baby, and they're not going to be screaming because the sun's glaring at them. That said though, you might also want to add some mesh in the back windows here, because these can get very sunny and come back and reflect in on the baby, since they're going to be fitting in a reverse kind of position for the first few years of their life. And the next thing is definitely going to be the third row here. If you put these second row seats down here, you almost have 90 cubic feet of space, which is massive. But right here, as it is, with the second row down there, you have, I think, just around 50 cubic feet of space. It's really quite decent in size. You have lots of space. And let me tell you, you can go to Costco and buy so much stuff and it all fit in here, no problem. It's wild. Like, I'm gonna say you could probably fit in 24 cases of Costco 30 pack of water. It's wild. And that's about it for this video, guys. So overall, I really do think this is an amazing car, and I do love to have it. I love the space that it has. I'm very intrigued by the power they get out of that little 4-cylinder 2.4T engine. Everything's in the right spot, and that's what you're kind of gonna need when you get a family car like this. Now that said, space, very important. Comfortability, drivability, very good. You know, fuel economy, pretty important, but it's not the top of the heap. But the biggest thing is safety. And overall, when it comes to airbags, you don't really want to have problems with stuff like this, because now not only the driver's side has it, but also the passenger side, and it seems like it would be an easy fix, but we're going on basically month 3 now, and there is no fix. And especially with a big automotive tycoon like Toyota out there, you would think that they're going to come to a conclusion quicker. So hopefully that comes out pretty soon, and we can all just kind of rest easy about it, because I know a lot of people that are watching these videos that are intrigued or on the fence about buying this Grand Highlander. That's basically the nail in the coffin in terms of their opportunity to buy one of these cars. And also at the same time, I'm also hearing rumors that they might discontinue this. Now this just might be some kind of YouTube news that's been kind of just fabricated, and it might not be real, but this could also be a real thing, because there's just a lot of different things about this car that are kind of iffy that you don't see on a lot of cars. You know, the airbags, you know, recalls maybe with the engine or the suspension, stuff like that. If bolts get loose or break automatically or accidentally. But when it comes to an airbag, and in regards to safety, where people could die basically due to this, it's pretty tragic. So would I buy this car a year ago if I know what I know now today? And I'm gonna say yes and no, because at the same time, like, it is a good car. It's a first model year, it's very exciting, lots of space, which is what you want. But when it comes to the recall, that's too bad. You know, when you look into something like a Honda Pilot, which is basically the direct competitor to this car, I guarantee you they're not going to have these problems, because this is Honda, and they're very, very good, very high quality vehicles. And that's also what you expect at Toyota. Same with Mazda, very high quality. You don't expect to have safety issues, maybe like little technical or suspension, stuff like that issues, but not safety issues. So that's pretty tragic. But that said, the recall information didn't come out until late July, early August, so you wouldn't even have known. And for most of the time, it was a clean, clear year with no problems with the Grand Highlander. Although a similar engine being placed in the Tacoma has had some problems in the past, so hopefully we don't see those in the future going forward with this one. And that's all, folks. If you found this video helpful, smash that like button for me and subscribe to the channel, please! And we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.